Historically, our refining capability, our processing capability, and our manufacturing capability, they've all gone offshore. It's too expensive to do that in Australia.
Josh Phillips is the co-founder of Clear AI, one of Australia's leading AI consultancies. He is an authority on the development and implementation of human-centric AI. He is highly regarded in both government and commercial sectors.
A really important value for us is that we're human-centric, that the rollout of AI is not actually to erase human beings or try and automate them away.
Josh's mission is to influence AI ethics, to ensure human flourishing. He is a force in creating AI solutions, serving both commercial and government spheres. Josh demonstrates how to increase productivity, engagement, and enhance your value proposition.
What I could see is a lot of our engineering was pretty much rules-based. We look up the standard, and according to what the standard says, or the planning scheme, or whatever the rule was for the jurisdiction we were working in.
Tell us a bit about Clear AI, because I think there's a really room in this space for people who can simplify, clarify, kind of sense makers in the Wild West.
There are pretty much two ways of approaching AI. One's from a cost-cutting, cost-savings perspective, and then the other one is, how do we grow our business, our revenues?
Hey, Josh, great to see you. Hey, thanks for coming down. Really enjoyed having the weekend with you and Jenny. It was great to go out last night. That was a great steak. Fantastic.
Very good.
It's a good spot out there. You're talking about a topic that I think I spend probably about 50% of my time when I'm talking to business leaders about, which is the world's most dangerous acronym, AI. Mm-hmm. There's so much going on in that space. It's such a big topic. So thank you for coming down and exploring that with us.
Yeah.
It's a fairly new science, although I'm sure there's people been wrestling with it for a long time. But you are not necessarily recent into AI, but you've got an interesting background in finance and international development and engineering. Mm. So an engineer who's sort of moved over to the dark side.
Right.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about how you made that transition and how you got into AI?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, when I was studying my civil engineering degree, which like you kind of suggest, not many people go from perhaps civil engineering into AI. I was studying and looking at neural nets, which is some of the early work in AI, or relatively early work compared to where we are today, and the modeling. And I was using that in my project management type work for my thesis. Fast forward a few years, I was working as a civil engineer, and what I could see is a lot of our engineering was pretty much rules-based. We look up the standard, and according to what the standard says, or the planning scheme, or whatever the rule was for the jurisdiction we were working in, basically say, okay, if this, then this.
Right.
And computers do that in incredible ways. And so I could see that actually there was a future that AI could replace or do a lot of the work that I was doing in terms of designs, building and code documentation, because it's so capable. We could run 10,000 or 100,000 different designs and then choose from the top 5 or the top 10 and use our own human discernment in that situation. So that was a really important step. I remember mentioning this to my bosses, and I said, I think a computer's going to be able to do what I can do. And they just said, no way.
Go away, Josh.
Yeah. And I said 10 years, and I think I might be out by about 5 years, but we're about 5 years into that period of time now.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing what it can do. So I went from engineering and also thinking, how does my work matter? What do I want to do with my life? And engineering, I could see it being massively disrupted by AI and computing. What do I do? And so I made a little jump into international development and finance. And the connection is that a lot of projects require a lot of feasibility and engineering discernment to be able to get off the ground. And so I started working in that space, and I worked quite closely with my wife, and we're working with some really interesting organizations to find ways to deploy renewable energy in particularly the Pacific, and did quite a lot of work in that space before we had this moment with ChatGPT. Yeah, and that was kind of exactly, it was the aha moment. And absolutely. I was already writing about AI. I was so curious about it and didn't have skin in the game in the same way. as what I do now. But I was like, this is so interesting. This is going to change everything we do. Started to play with that in our business. Okay, how can I write a policy with this? How can I use AI in my daily workflows? And one thing led to another. I had friends who started to say, hey, you're already like in the AI space. You're already building things. What do we do? How do we implement this with our business and how do we get value from it?
Yeah.
And that was probably the biggest aha moment for me is like, oh, not everyone is thinking about how I apply this to my business.
Yeah.
They know it's huge. They can sense that this is a step change in how we do business, but they don't have a guide or a resource to be able to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. I was in a Microsoft briefing, about 100 business leaders. And I'm looking around the room and you could see the faces going, oh my goodness, my business is broken. Oh my goodness, my world is turning. Do I have to reinvent myself again? It is enormous. And I think that crystallizing moment of ChatGPT arriving on the scene, really most people, particularly in the commercial world, have suddenly gone, I have no idea what that's going to do, but it's going to do a lot.
Yeah.
And it's such a big topic. There's so much going on, and almost every day something is changing or something new is arriving. Tell us a bit about Clear AI, because I think there's a really room in this space for people who can simplify, clarify, kind of sense makers in the Wild West.
Yeah, well, we exist to help companies and businesses adopt AI. Some organizations we work with as well, local governments.
Yeah.
And the biggest role that we have is helping them to actually discern how do we do this. And a really important value for us is that we're human-centric, that the rollout of AI is not actually to erase human beings or try and automate them away. Instead, how do we augment what they do and make the work that they do really matter? And that's a massive, important part of what we do. In terms of the practical aspects of that,
Yes.
there are kind of three things that we work on really closely. One of them is people. Actually, and that's the human-centered piece, but we need to train people how to use AI. This is a completely new skill set, and we never trained for this before. If you made your way from being a junior through to being in executive leadership, there was no portion of your training historically that sat around AI.
Yep.
But now it's an essential skill, no matter what level you're at.
100%.
So we help train people. That's the first pillar.
Yep.
And then the second one is governance. How do we make sure that people are using AI well? And how do we position a business so that it manages its risks, it understands the risks that it's facing, and particularly with regard to its business model. Some of the businesses we work with, IP is extremely sensitive, extremely valuable. If they don't have control of their IP, they don't have a business.
Yeah.
And so the risks for them come around their data management and privacy. But for other businesses, if they don't get on board with AI, they know that their business is toast.
Yeah.
And so the risk is existential for them, and understanding that so that they can then size their bets and work out how do we go forward with AI so that it no longer is a risk to our business, but it's something which accelerates us ahead of our competitors.
Yeah. So you're freaking people out right now.
Yeah, well, I think that the opportunity there is massive though as well. And so
100%.
the governance piece is really essential.
Yeah.
And then the third piece is how do we implement this? How do we trial it? And we call this piloting.
Okay.
So I mentioned sizing your bets. So I love the principle, bullets before cannonballs. This is Jim Collins. So wherever possible, we'll say, okay, what are the potential use cases in your business? Where are the opportunities here? And then let's just develop 1, 2, 3 of those. And we'll try and do that really quickly and prove the value, test it. And part of that's learning, but part of that's also proving the value so that then as a business, you can say, oh, that worked. That worked well. We like how that worked. Let's invest more money and time and resource into seeing how we can make that really grow and impact our business positively.
Absolutely. I like Jim Collins with Good to Great. Still one of the best books, I think, around business. That ability for organizations to be agile and adaptable and fail fast and try things becomes more and more important when things are changing quickly. And this area in particular, I think it's so big. Things are happening so fast. That piloting piece you're talking about, I think, is super important. So governance, people, and piloting. The governance thing I think is interesting. As I chair a bunch of boards, and I was at an AICD briefing. There were 1,000 people there freaking out. Because entire organizations have now got shadow IT. Everyone's using all sorts of different AI in all sorts of different ways, and so it's really causing some interesting governance issues.
Yeah.
Like, how do you manage that from a policy perspective and a board risk perspective without putting a lid on it? Because you've got to embrace what's going to kill you. If you don't, you get to die early.
Yeah.
And I think in this environment, probably quite quickly. So it's a massive area of interest to me. This is the governance space.
Yeah, and I think it's highlighting something really interesting in the way that organizations think about their people.
Yeah.
Because shadow IT is, I think, and to explain what that is someone who's using AI who shouldn't be using AI for their work according to perhaps what the policy is or the culture.
Like everybody.
Right. It's like they're set up, they're working from home.
Yep.
They have their work computer, they have their personal computer. And because they're not allowed to use ChatGPT on their work computer, they'll just go prompt, and pop their data in on their personal computer. And the idea is your data could be getting leaked, your IP could be getting leaked and now being used to train future models. And it creates a vulnerability to the organization. But it's highlighting a few different things about how organizations think about their people. Because the companies we've seen who do this really well, they say, don't use AI in these areas. So they're actually kind of like via negativa. Don't do these things. Outside of this, go for it.
Right.
Like, go for it, but also tell us. Be transparent.
Yeah.
Don't say, this was my work, and just claim all the benefit from it. Be able to say, yeah, I used AI for this.
Yeah.
This is how I used it. Here's the benefit. And the employees should also be able to benefit from that as well. That if they're using AI really well and in a way which is benefiting the organization, well, then why wouldn't we want to reward them? But then there's the other side where companies or organizations are like, don't use it, don't touch it.
Yeah.
It's a risk and we don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
And it means that we're not trusting our people. And that lack of trust in many cases is actually not being, it fulfills itself when people go and do shadow IT. They use ChatGPT anyway.
Yeah.
And this is in public service. I know anecdotally,
totally.
people who are using it there. This is in private sector. It's all over the place.
Yeah. So trust is a very much underrated currency, I think. So you're talking my language here. I'm getting quite excited because it's very disruptive. Control's an illusion. And if you try and lock it down in this environment, your business is not going to go well.
Yeah.
And so the cultural imperatives of transparency and trust but I know a lot of employees would feel a bit fearful. Hang on a second. I'm going to tell the people who employ me that the AI can do what I've been doing. So rather than leveraging that, and I'm sure a lot of managers who might not think of the frontal cortex too much, of which there's a few, would be going, why do I need these people? I could just get rid of them and get AI to do it. Or I've got 27 people doing that, I only need 3. And there's a lot of that happening now. So there is, I think, one of the dynamics around shadow IT is, do I really want to reveal how I'm doing this?
Yeah. Well, I think the mindset around how we approach AI really matters. And there are pretty much 2 ways of approaching AI. One's from a cost savings perspective. And then the other one is, how do we grow our business, our revenues? And if you think purely in the cost cutting category, there's actually only so much cost cutting you can do in an organization.
Yeah.
But if you think in the growth category, it's like potentially the growth is nearly unlimited.
Yeah.
Because you could always grow your market. You could expand into new markets. You can create new products. So there are many more potential opportunities to grow. I love the pie analogy. It's like you could own 100% of like a small or like a party pie.
Yeah.
Or you could own a smaller percentage of a much, much bigger pie, like a New York pizza or something, right? And it's overall much bigger. But if we just continually think about how do we reduce it down so I own more of it so that I actually get more bang for my buck, then that's massively limiting the potential of AI.
Sure.
But if you go into the growth category and, how do we impact our revenues with this, it gives a lot of potential. And if you give that freedom to your staff, your employees, and you say, well, we want you to use AI. We're not going to work you, to the ground. we're actually going to say, if you're using AI, you're commended. And we also want you to think about, instead of just a cost cutting basis, we could be growing your section of the business. You could be looking after a team of agents. You could be growing your responsibilities. I think that that's a tremendously exciting prospect for many, particularly high performing employees. And so if you align your incentives correctly, there's massive potential.
Yeah. So you're leveraging the collective intelligence and experience and adding the technology to sort of supercharge that. You're starting to sound like a political conservative. Socialists think the pie is fixed, and if somebody's getting something, someone else is missing out.
That's right, yeah.
So let's not go down that. Let's not do that.
Well,
sorry, go on. What do you say?
I think there is something to this, is like, actually, like, this is how our economy works. This is one of the benefits of capitalism, is even the potential that people have to get reward for merit.
Yeah.
That actually, if they work hard, they get more opportunity.
Yes.
And they get more income.
Yeah.
And so we should be creating systems which support that.
Yeah, we should have government that's interested in growing the pie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Let's definitely not go down there. Another day, topic for another day.
That's right.
So this people piece is really important to you, this human-centric approach that you've got.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else you wanted to talk about in that space?
Yeah, I think that there are also, it's worth noting some of the risks, is that actually, like, there is this potential we could just cut portions of our workforce. And so how do we approach AI also matters of how do we educate our people?
Yeah.
How do we train them? If you think about, as an employer, one of the things you want to do is develop your people. And so developing them through the use of AI and with the use of AI is really advantageous to them, not only in their current role, but hopefully we want success for our people when they leave us as well, that they can go on to, greater things. And in turn, if we treat our people really well, then they're going to treat us well, whether they're with us now or not with us in the future, right? And so you don't know what potential business partnerships could be out there, or relationships you'll be able to leverage later.
Come back sometimes too.
Right. And so I think that actually treating your people really well by equipping them with AI is an actual, like, it's a necessity.
Yeah.
And if we do that, then it mitigates a huge amount of the risk to our business, because we're saying we trust you and we want to equip you for the future, which is coming.
So you're probably talking about maybe in about 5-10% of organizations that actually have a cultural maturity that are human-centric. A lot of what I do is try and humanize the workplace. I think it can be a very redemptive place. But most companies don't do that. They'll go after the cost cutting. But I think the opportunity here is, if people are really focused in that area and use AI that's human-centric, that, like, this could be an absolute game changer for a small number of organizations that could do really, really, really well.
Absolutely. I think for people who are ambitious, they're going to want to leverage that for sure.
Yeah. And you work in local government as well.
Yeah, a little bit.
Is there some danger that local governments are going to become efficient?
I think from what I've seen, the teams that I've worked with, they really want to do the most that they can with the resources that they have.
That's reassuring to hear.
Yeah. And in many cases, AI is speeding that up. I've seen it where, like, these teams are really willing to adopt and embrace it. It's one of the interesting dynamics that some of our earliest clients were local government. And I was very curious about that, because I would have thought private sector is like, let's just go, let's get it.
Yeah.
But I think the risk appetite has been quite low in private.
Yes.
Maybe it's to do with the environment that we're in, the economic environment. And so people want to be able to guarantee their, like, return on investment.
Yeah.
Whereas local government, a lot of CEOs, I think state and federal governments have gone down this path as well a little bit. They know this is important, and they actually have money. They get tax revenue, they get rates. And so they're willing to make some investment in it early. And perhaps part of me as well is that it's not their money in the same way as, if you're a founder or a CEO, you're very conscious of, this is my company, that I'm putting, I have skin in the game in this. I think local governments, they view it as, okay, we have, like, this pool of money, and yes, ideally it's like we're stewards or we're custodians of that, but they also know that it doesn't have the same kind of risk, or, they're not as tied to it in the way that perhaps like a founding team would be.
Yes.
But I've thought that was really curious that governments in Australia were more willing to jump on board than a lot of private sector companies.
It actually surprises me a little bit. I think the environment is very tight. Economically, it's not been that good, particularly in the private sector. And anyone who's consumer focused or consumer facing has definitely had a lot of issues over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So people are just watching what they're investing in and very cost focused, and revenues have been challenged a bit. Profitability has been challenged.
Yeah.
But we in the government sector, we have now just past 1 million people in the government sector in
Wild,
Australia. So maybe a little bit of less people and more productivity might be a good idea anyway.
Well, there's upcoming productivity
Yep.
announcements that we're expecting. We're actually expecting the government to unveil their AI policy.
Okay.
And it's one of the areas where we've seen Australia's been extremely slow in this. And we're advocating for getting some kind of regulation. And I'm not pro heavy regulation, but we need some kind of guardrails. And this comes back to the governance piece as well. If you have a policy in place of here's how you can't use AI, here's how you can use it, you give your employees certainty. I'm not going to be punished if I use it this way and if I'm transparent about it. And it's exactly the same from government to business. If you want to signal to business, we actually want you to use AI, put some regulation in place that tells them how they can and can't use it, and then let them go.
Yeah.
And whereas at the moment it's been quite uncertain, there hasn't been regulation. And so if a business invests heavily, they are facing a potential risk that they get regulated and then they have to wind back some of the work that they've done.
Yeah. And regulation usually trails technology and adoption even.
Yeah.
If you look at drones, even something as simple as drones, everyone was using them by the time they put in legislation to say, don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's
can't apply
definitely
there.
true here.
So it's a very fast moving area of interest for entrepreneurs. A lot of the people that listen to this are sort of mid-sized entrepreneurs, and most of my clients in the Lead Well, Live Well are sort of 50 to 100 million revenues, maybe a bit more, and they're all going, what does this mean?
Yeah.
Like, where are we going to do? How are we going to do things? So what do you think for most entrepreneurs? They might have had a bit of personal go at ChatGPT, the sort of get that dynamic and just going, oh, there's some opportunity here. They've got all sorts of people doing all sorts of things, and they haven't put any policies in or anything yet. What should they be thinking about?
Yeah.
And what should they be doing?
Well, I think the first thing they should be doing is playing themselves a lot. Really get used to the tools, figure out what it's good at, what it's not good at.
Yeah.
So the most basic way to do that is just get basic ChatGPT subscription. Make sure that the setting is off that says improve the model for everyone. That means that your data is your data and it's not going to be used to train the model, and go from there.
So literally you can just turn that off.
Yeah,
No IP issues.
exactly. And so
Because there's a lot of mythology out there, isn't there, around that?
yeah, and it was worse at the beginning. So these settings were more opaque or weren't there. And especially if you use the free one, and I think now free ChatGPT, you can even turn this off. But in general, if you don't pay for the product, you are the product, right? And so your inputs were going to be going into training the model. Anthropic, so Claude, if you're familiar with that, there's another
I like
LLM. Yeah, it's a very good one.
Claude and Perplexity are my two kind of go-tos.
Okay, yeah. Well, Claude, they actually say we don't train the models on your inputs, full stop.
Yeah.
Whether it's free or paid. So that's another avenue people can go down. But the main thing is, make sure your like privacy and IP side of things is secure, and then play. Get used to it and say, okay, can I do this? Can I do that? And as you get more familiar, imagine the ideas start to come. Oh, what if I used it in this way? What if I created an agent which could do this? Maybe it's like your onboarding flow. How can you use AI so that it's a smoother onboarding flow and you can automate that process so that your customers have a really amazing experience every single time they interact with you? They sign the deal and then all of a sudden they're like, wow, this is an amazing company. I've just had the best onboarding experience because AI made it so easy. They didn't have to fill out all these forms and do all this extra work. That's just one example. And so for me, playing with it is really essential. And then if I'm in that 50 to 100 million or just a bit over that category, I'm going to be resourcing some of my team to say, your job is to work out how we can apply this across our business.
Yeah.
And that team should have permission to work, across business units and talk to different business units, break down the silos and say, how do we like integrate it here, here, and here so that it can accelerate our business forward? Develop early use cases and then start running pilots. So it's like you have to make some investment. You have to free up a little bit of people's time so that they can do this, but start testing and implementing. The potential upside is incredible. Procter & Gamble did this study. It was with assistance from a university group. They took 776 employees and they broke them down into individuals and teams. And they gave half of the individuals access to ChatGPT, half of the teams access to ChatGPT. And then they said, how do you perform? They gave them a set of tasks to do. They had to develop new products. And over the process, they found that individuals with AI outperform teams without AI, and then teams with AI outperform them yet again. Not only that, if you have teams using AI, they produce more of like the top 10 results, significantly more. So out of the performance, you get a massive performance boost. Not only that, but those people who are using AI were happier. They have experienced less negative emotions in their work. So it has an effect there. But then I think one of the interesting findings for me is that it broke down silos in the organization because they had people from like commercial teams and R&D.
Yeah.
And a classic problem is, our R&D teams come up with these really great ideas, but they're not commercial.
Yeah.
There was greater overlap, significantly more overlap between the teams when they were using AI. So the R&D guys were coming up with more commercial solutions. So if you think about across an organization, one of the main points of friction is when you have teams which they don't have good overlap.
Yeah.
This team's pushing this agenda, but it doesn't fit with this objective over here. If you use AI, there's every chance that can cross over much better.
Yeah. Even from a governance perspective, there's people experimenting with, from a strategic perspective, these are the most important things we're focused on. And AI feeds back into people like, why are you working on this? Maybe you should be working on that. Well, this doesn't really fit with our current strategy. And so you have this whole refining of what people are doing, and you can ask like, do you think this kind of thing would work with, or it doesn't fit with what we're doing?
Yeah.
Or actually, no, that's fantastic. We need to accelerate that. Make sure you, it's just a mind-blowing, the possibilities are mind-blowing, which is what I'm struggling to kind of drill down on what some of those things are with you, because there's just so much. Because entrepreneurs must be going like, where do I start with this?
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
so get to know it themselves.
Get to know it themselves.
Yeah.
Help equip a team to brainstorm and ideate.
I like that skunk works model, particularly for how can we increase productivity and engagement and those make things more efficient, and client interaction in particular. I think it's a great place to start as well. But also the allowing in larger organizations where there's more resources, creating a skunk works and going like break our business model.
Yeah.
Create something that's going to compete with us, like really just what's going to kill us. And I think that is such an important thing right now, because business models are going to shift at an almost exponential speed.
Right. Yeah. Our first order thinking is like, what are the ways that we can use AI to increase our productivity, do more of what we do now better.
Yep.
But the second order is to say, how do we take what we're really good at and like our secret sauce, like whatever that magic is, and then build our whole business with the AI capabilities where they are, but also where we see them going in the future. And this is a really important thing. The AI is changing rapidly.
Yep.
Recognizing that you may have dreams or visions for how you could use AI that it's not capable of today, 6 months' time, that could be completely different.
So or next week.
Or next week. Yeah. And very, very short term.
The rate is phenomenal.
So the second order thinking is, okay, like how do we then take what we're really good at and turn that into a business which, powered with AI, disrupts the market, changes what we do, puts us way ahead of our competitors. Because I guarantee you there aren't that many companies who are actually thinking that way as well.
Absolutely. I think that's very very normal. Everyone looks at where am I now and how can I incrementally change? The future is changing. What do you need to be like to be good in the future? And AI literacy across your entire organization is going to be an absolute mandate just to survive, let alone thrive. But the first adopters through that, what I would call a step change, as opposed to just a incremental innovation, are the ones that will win.
Right, exactly. And I think as an organization, if you think about AI maturity, one of the things you want to aim towards is getting to the point where business units, the teams can ideate and develop prototypes and proof of concepts, and then have some kind of process approval where it's like, oh, we recognize this is beneficial across the organization. Just go.
Yeah.
This is kind of like we're talking about systemic or transformational change. And AI makes it possible. I think about this tool called Replit. It's like an online development platform where you can deploy a website or an app really easily. And the way that it came about initially is it was basically a tool for developers to be able to deploy their code quickly online. So I could deploy something, you'd be able to access it. What they've done is they've now built an agent system. So you can just talk to it and say, I want an app which is going to do this. And it can go away and do that. And then you get the first version, you're like, it's not quite right. The authentication is not quite right or something like this. And then you just tell it, can you fix it? Fixes it. But if you think about how this could work, right, is you're in a meeting, we've got 60 minutes. What are our ideas? Like, what are the points in our business which are really difficult for us? Maybe it's something around like a CRM or like a workflow. And then you like put that together and you just have one of your team members sitting there on a computer, on Replit or an equivalent platform, just saying, yeah, build an app that does this, right? So in real time, we could be prototyping something. So midway through the meeting, you're looking at the first version of what you're talking about. In the past, we'd be talking about, okay, let's develop a scope of work. Works, let's go out to 1, 2, 3 or more developers, work out how much that's going to cost, get the quotes, engage them, have the cost blowout, do this project where they don't really understand it. Well, within 60 minutes, you could have your early prototype of that. And that was never a possibility in the past. And so I think where we're going to see really amazing things is when you get that AI capability down through your whole business so that teams can ideate and create with AI in ways which they could have never thought of doing it in the past.
Yeah. And this is for every business in every industry.
Yeah.
It's not just the techies.
No way.
This is like retail, wholesale, import, distribution, service companies, the whole lot. Right?
Well, it's kind of a meme getting around the internet was that like the tech guys used to kind of laugh at the idea bros. That's what they called them.
Yeah.
Like, I've got an idea. I'm going to start this business, going to change the world.
TikTok bro science.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, maybe the idea bros are going to have their day because now they can just use AI to realize their idea.
Yeah.
They don't have to have the technical capability to make it happen.
Yeah. But there is a sense, I'll probably repeat this a few times today because I think it's absolutely critical. If you don't get into this space, your business will not survive.
Oh, totally.
Because everything else is going to disrupt. Everything's going to be quicker, more efficient, more effective, and just a whole different game.
Yeah.
I like what you were saying about the companies who know their point of difference, know their value proposition, and really double down on that and use it to go very, very good at that. They become very, very hard to compete with.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, especially then if you pair that with this is also our ideal customer.
Yeah.
And we know and you can use AI for this. Like we know what their motivations are. We understand them. We know what places they hang out. Like, they all go to this certain club.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, we're all going to be there as well.
Yeah.
And we also know how to talk to them. We know what matters and you can get in their shoes. This is one way where even if you're teaching your sales rep, if you have a clear ideal customer and you can put that into an AI, you could set up your own agent. So for instance, I could set one up and say, be a 9 out of 10 difficulty closing, right? And then I put on voice mode. I'm like, hey, John, how's it going today? And they're like, yeah, it's good. And so I'm having conversation with AI. And then I do my pitch. And then I get objections back. And then I get to practice, overcoming those objections. I think that's an amazing thing that you can actually do sales reps, where there's no potential downside if you stuff it up.
Yeah.
And then at the end of it, you can say, how did I go? Can you give me some feedback? Where could I have improved? And so you could actually practice a sales call. Like if you just blocked out one day in a week, it's like, I need to get better at overcoming objections on my sales calls. you could block out a day and run through 20 repetitions of a sales call and massively improve. That was never a thing.
Yeah. And then the customer just talks directly to the AI.
Well, I mean, that's a potential future as well.
Yeah. Well, the world is changing. So what other areas do you think are going to get disrupted, or there'll be mega step change and innovation?
Yeah.
Because we're not only talking about AI, are we? Because I think we have this sort of confluence of other technologies, robotics, quantum computing. There's a number of different things that are going to impact us over the next few years.
Yeah. Robotics, I think, is the major one, is that humanoid robots. We saw this demoed by Tesla probably maybe 5 years ago when we first saw Optimus. And it was very basic kind of ability. Was now there are many humanoid robot companies out there. I personally think Figure by Brett Adcock, he's the founder and CEO. They're doing such incredible work. They're actually working with BMW and helping. They have these humanoid robots which can just do work in their factories.
Yeah.
And they can see, as we'd call it. They move things around, manipulate parts, put them in other machinery, and they don't need any brakes. They can work in dangerous environments, and there's this massive potential.
No work comp.
No workers' comp. If one gets crushed by a falling car, we don't have any issues of, and maybe it's a little bit trivial to say issues, but it's like we haven't lost a life.
Yeah.
We just go and pay another $30,000, $50,000, $100,000 to get a new one. Whereas, that impact, if that's a human being, is
Tragic.
Totally. And so robotics has a profound potential to change what we do. And if you think about like GDP growth over the last 100 years, massive amount of GDP growth with the addition of women to the workforce. This is Noah Yuval Harari.
Yep.
Whichever way his name is. And so we've seen additional hands in the workforce. Well, humanoid robots that can go and do things, act in the real world, if we can put them in a production line and we have humanoid robots producing humanoid robots, we can now add a massive amount of hands to the workforce, and in areas where we couldn't have done that before. So I think about in Australia, one of the massive opportunities is in processing our minerals and our raw materials. And manufacturing, this is another one. Historically, our refining capability, our processing capability, and our manufacturing capability, they've all gone offshore. It's too expensive to do that in Australia. Whereas if you think about humanoid robots, we could potentially put these facilities in place and run them using humanoid robots at a very low marginal cost, and they don't demand an increase in their wage year after year. And you might ask me the question, okay, well, how can you be human-centric and then also be potentially
how can you be human-centric and you're talking about robots?
Yeah, well, if I look at those industries, they don't exist in Australia. And so there's still going to be people who are involved in the creation of those industries.
Yep.
And so that is still creating more jobs and more opportunities and more prosperity for our country. And I only see that as a good thing.
Yes.
And it's not taking away a human job if we're putting a robot in a job that never existed and couldn't have existed in the first place. So it's still the creation of jobs, and it also is a creation of wealth for our country, which I think is a really incredible thing and something that we ought to be investing in for future generations.
Absolutely. I mean, Australia's in a wonderful opportunity, and I think particularly with what's happening globally, everyone's thinking about bringing back manufacturing to their own shores. The rise of a bit more nationalism, globalism's shifted the way that all that's being done. So the opportunity, there's not many of us here. We have the most resources in the world. I mean, we should be the wealthiest country on the planet.
Right.
And certainly we're not adding any value to what we're doing at the moment. And we're not particularly innovative or creative. So there's a massive opportunity with the confluence of technology, the way politically and globally things are happening. If we have the political and commercial will to make some significant changes, it's a fantastic opportunity.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly. And perhaps to use another example of a way robotics could come into things, and not in the mining example or manufacturing, would be if you go in to buy a pair of shoes and you talk to your shop assistant and say, okay, like I want to try on whatever size you are. They then will say, no worries, I'll go out the back, check if there are some there, bring them out and try them on. in theory, you could actually have an AI who's like reading that and then have the humanoid robot out the back that grabs it, hands off to the human person. And now you go and try it on, and you've just sped up that process, made it that little bit more seamless. And I think I recently bought something from the Apple store. I bought it online, and you've got Apple things as well. So I'm sure you've had this experience.
My world.
Yeah, it's
I'm an Apple victim.
right. And you go in, and so I went in and said, hey, my name's Josh. Here's my QR code. I'm here to pick some things up. They said, hey, Josh, so nice to have you here. Thanks for coming in. If you just go wait over there, someone will be out and come and bring those things for you. And I stood there, might have been about a minute, and someone just came out and said, hey, Josh, here are your things. See you later. Enjoy. And I think that seamless experience is amazing. And like it endears me to that company.
Absolutely.
So if we had that in shoes or in clothing and other sectors where things take time and it doesn't actually cost a whole lot to put a robot out the back to be able to bring it and make for a better human experience, I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
Because we don't currently have a human being doing that part of the role. We don't have anyone in that part of the role. Like that person goes off the floor and does it. Instead, if they could be building rapport with their customer, isn't that going to benefit the business in the long run, create more loyalty, create a seamless experience, and also creates opportunities to say upsell to them. Hey, you're in for a pair of shoes. How are your socks at the moment? Or, like these are running shoes. We also have these specific running socks.
Yeah.
Or insoles, or whatever it may be.
Yeah. And on the consumer front end around the way that we buy, I think that's up for grabs as well. With voice, with sort of preemptive AI understanding of what you're going to need even before you know you need it.
Yeah.
That's if I was your average marketer right now, I'd be really working out what's going on.
Oh yeah.
Because things are changing rapidly. Are there any other areas of disruption or innovation you think mid-sized entrepreneurs should be focusing on, particularly around AI?
Yeah, I think there are just so many.
Yeah.
But perhaps what the areas of disruption that I think we're seeing the most is actually in changing of the models and changing the underlying technology. And those are the things that are going to inform.
So when you say models, you're talking about business model or
AI models?
AI models. Okay.
Yeah. So to kind of shift the conversation in the direction of the technology.
Yeah.
When ChatGPT first came out, it was purely text model. So I put in text, get text out.
Yep.
And then as that has grown, it's become multimodal. So that means text, audio, video, image, it can do all of those things. And so the disruptions I see actually come from the increasing capability of the AI. And some of those we don't even know what they are going to be because then they released reasoning models. If I could go through really quickly, like there are a few main providers of AI. You've got OpenAI, obviously really famous. You've got Google, and their product is Gemini. You've got Anthropic, and their product is Claude. Then probably the fourth one is, we've talked about Perplexity, which is search.
Yeah.
And then Copilot. So Microsoft, and what Microsoft is doing is building this ecosystem where businesses can trust the security so things don't go off your tenant. Your data stays your data. And if, say you're housing your data in Australia, you can keep your data in Australia. So they've done a really good job there. But now the AI can talk to everything in your ecosystem. So you can jump on, ask Copilot, hey, help me prepare for my week. What are the 10 things that I need to be across over this week? What about this meeting? What's the context for this meeting? What's the agenda for it? So you can use your own data. So those are the different providers, but underneath that you have different models. So I've talked about the text models and multimodal, and then there's reasoning models as well. And I got to say, one of my perhaps critiques of the AI companies is that they label their products in such an obscure way. Gemini 2.5 Flash Pro.
Yeah.
It's like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
They don't say this model is capable of doing X, Y, and Z.
Yep.
But the disruption I see is when people apply these in ways which are very specific to their business, and they have the potential to disrupt others. So if you understand what the different models are, what they can do, that would be a really foundational thing.
Around.
Yeah.
Like I like Perplexity because when you prompt it, it'll actually choose which model is best to answer that. I do like asking it what I should be asking. I think that's just another whole area.
Kind of go like very meta, yeah.
Yeah, it gets a bit ethereal. But I had to play with Perplexity Labs, which is their research piece, and just looked at take this brand from a marketing perspective and just give me a report on what they're doing. It took about 15, 20 minutes. Unbelievable amount of data. Like, this is the main thing. Here's what they do. Here's the main ads that they use. Here's the platforms that they go after. This is what the ad construction is like.
Yeah.
This is the kind of hooks that they use, and this is why this is a good thing. Like, it would have taken a marketer like a year to unpack all that and do all the research and find it. And it just like presents it to you.
Yep.
So the acceleration of the availability of knowledge and understanding is just incredible. So there is an AI race on, isn't there, right, between these two people? Who do you think is going to win in that? Is there a winner, or is it just going to be a kind of ecosystem of different providers?
There's a question whether this is winner takes all or not. And in terms of if someone creates a super intelligence, then there probably is a winner. But at the moment, it looks to me like there's going to be an ecosystem that you'll be able to choose which ecosystem you want to live within. And I think about this, maybe it's analogous with what we've had with phones, either Android or Apple. And so if you live in Google, like all your stuff is going to be in Google. The capabilities, I mean, we're talking about very minute differences most of the time between the frontier models and their capabilities.
Yeah.
A lot of the difference comes down to cost and then the way that you interact with it. I think Microsoft is doing an absolutely incredible job of positioning themselves as a trusted provider.
Yeah.
There's a word trust again, is that actually like being able to verify that your data is safe, secure, but then also that the AI is drawing on the right data. OpenAI, I think, are just an incredible company. XAI, so is Elon's company. I think one of the most impressive things there is that they went from like nothing, so way behind, to delivering frontier model in Grok in a very, very short amount of time.
That's a Musk way of doing things.
Yeah, so it does beg the question of, are we going to see something even more incredible from them? And given Elon Musk's track record, I think you can't rule it out. Yeah.
So love him or hate him, you can't deny he's been effective.
Oh, very much
in what he's doing. That's for sure. So there is I think there's a lot of hype going on as well. We have this, anyone with a database is suddenly an AI thing. And we saw that with the rise of the internet. We had this sort of massive overvaluation and then crash and then recorrection. But underneath that, there was just the fundamental way we were doing everything, from social interaction, the way we did business, commerce, online transactions and everything else. Communicate, everything changed. That fundamental change happened regardless of how things were being valued. And are you seeing a bit of a hype bubble at the moment?
Oh, definitely. We see this in the valuations.
Yeah.
And our advice generally is to probably stay away from startups. And it seems rough for startups to say, hey, don't just go use their product. But partially because they may be overvalued, maybe overpromising, and they may not actually have the ability to execute. Or potentially, like, their business model will be completely disrupted when OpenAI release their next model. So for me, the value in AI is when you say, where do we want to go in the future? What are we as a company? And then how do we use the capability of AI today, as well as what we think the capability of AI in the future is going to be to accelerate what we already do? And an example for this is Amazon. If you go back and read Jeff Bezos' letters to shareholders, and he wrote letters all the way through, the .com bust, as well as many, every year from then on. And he says, we are committed to creating long-term value for our shareholders. So don't judge us on quarterly performance. We believe that the internet has fundamentally changed the way we will do commerce.
Yep.
And Amazon is preparing itself and working to be the facilitator of commerce in the future online.
Yeah. It's very, very Warren Buffett-esque, that letter. Accessible letter, the value piece.
And so if I think about as a company, tons of hype, but you can cut through the hype if you say, here's what we're good at, and here's how our path looks to get there. And we're not dependent on products which are going to over promote or overemphasize what can be achieved. I see this in the executive assistant type space.
Sure.
You get ads for this AI, which does everything for you.
Yeah.
So to me, that's probably quite close to snake oil because it doesn't exist. How can an AI at this point in time know all of my personal workflows when I know my own workflows are changing from week to week?
Yeah.
And so we need to be able to recognize that and say, okay, well, how do we break that down into the individual components? And I think about a workflow perspective. How do I triage my emails? How do I do this and this and this? And then create value by automating or integrating AI into that.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is a massive productivity tool if we get it right.
Yeah.
Okay. I think you've blown everyone's mind. I love your approach, the clear AI thing around value proposition, point of difference, human centric, add value, as opposed to his 27 ways to cut cost. And you can't cut your way to sustainable profitability.
No.
So I really like. I think it's great alignment. So we're going to make sure all your contact details are in the below this, so people can reach out to you and make sure they connect with you. Going to put AI aside, although I could talk for another 27 hours on this. It's just a fascinating area, and I enjoyed having dinner with you last night, and we talked about all sorts of things. It was fantastic. We lead well, live well. We also talk a lot about leaders are under pressure, and now with AI, they're going to be under even more pressure with so many things going on and lots of things happening. It's a busy world. You have a lovely wife and beautiful family, 2 young kids, lots of things happening, involved in a whole bunch of other things as well. How do you manage all that? Do you have certain things in your life that help you manage the busyness?
Yeah.
Can you lead and have a life?
You can. I mean, my life at the moment, I don't have a massive social life, although I spend a lot of time with friends. The main thing for me and the pillar is I get up at, so I've got, you said 2 young children, but they're 2 and 1.
It's amateur, mate. We have 3 under 3.
I know. I'm falling behind. And so I get up at 5.
Yep. And
between 5 and 7, it's like the one time of the day that I can guarantee this is my own. And most of the time our children will be, we'll get them up at 7. Maybe they wake up a little bit before that. And it's like, okay, I can get up and I can have some quiet time. And usually I spend some time reading, and often that's the Bible.
Yep.
And then I will have a coffee with my wife. So it allows us to kind of check in with each other and spend some time together, which if you've got a young family, busy business 100%. And doing a lot, that's a really important thing. And I see my marriage as absolutely essential. And Jenny has been the biggest support in almost everything I've done.
Yeah.
And so
you're punching, mate, just saying.
Oh yeah, absolutely. She's phenomenal. And I couldn't do what I'm doing now if it wasn't for her. And so we make a lot of very intentional decisions around spending time together and trying to take some time out. So we think about, where are we going over the next 6 months? Where have we been in the last 6 months? We check in and we go away usually for 1 to 2 nights, and we'll actually say, okay, like, are we aligned with where we're going? Are we moving in the right areas? And another practice we have, I'll get back to my day in a minute, but every week we, Friday mornings, we go have coffee and we call it our weekly check-in. I actually built an app for this using AI.
Of course you did.
And it allows us to rate our lives on 7 different scales. So spiritual, physical, relationships, financial, vocation, education, and leisure. And so we go through this and we say, okay, where are you at? 0 to 10. And it's completely subjective, and we can rate ourselves however we want. I kind of have my own framework for how I rate the different things.
Yeah.
But it allows us to actually touch base on things and say, oh, actually, like, your physical has been, or my physical has been at like a 3 out of all 4 for like the last 4 or 5 weeks. What's going on? And maybe it's, I've been sick. Maybe it's the children being up a lot. Or maybe it's like, I'm not actually just getting my exercise in. And so what do we need to do to change it? And that is a really helpful checkpoint. It's been helpful for us in our marriage as well to surface any kind of underlying issues, because every week we're like, how's your relationships? Right. And if something's simmering below the surface,
that's a 1.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's like
going on?
we're going to be talking about that.
Yeah.
So that's a pillar for us in our relationship. And then on like a daily basis, wake up early, coffee, time together, and then exercise. You know, so regularly, I'd be either doing some weight training, a run as well, and then often in the afternoons, I go climbing if I can fit it in my schedule, like bouldering.
Yeah.
And then it's like get going, get the children up, have breakfast, and then get into work. And often I'll be trying to get into work at like 7:30 if I can. And I don't check my emails and I don't take any meetings before 10 a.m.
That's so hard to do.
It is, yeah.
But it's good though. That's great. I love that's a great discipline.
It felt hard when it started.
Yeah.
And then I started doing it and found that it never caused me any issues.
Yeah.
And nothing was blowing up between sort of 7 and 10 o'clock. And we always resolved anything that came up. So that may change at some point in the future. And there are always going to be exceptions, right? You know,
Sure,
if the house
of
is on
course.
fire, I'm going to have to like
Yeah.
do it. But it's like, as a general rule, that's how it is. And then on Wednesdays also, I try not to have any meetings. So it's like a completely meeting-free day that allows me to actually focus my time and my energy on like the most important business things that I'm working on.
On a Wednesday.
Yeah, on Wednesday.
Okay.
Partly because that allows me to go really intense on meetings on Monday and Tuesday.
Yeah.
Then kind of take a breather, and then like Thursday, Friday, get the same thing. I found that rhythm works really well for me.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's great. So early morning, centering, bit of quiet time, prayer and things like that, just to center yourself. It's a great way of getting priorities right too, I think.
Yeah.
I do the same thing. Time with your wife, it's a good thing. So that relationship's super important to you. And no emails up until 10 and get some exercise in. So running, climbing, weights, or whatever it might be.
Exactly.
That's a wonderful balance. What about the anything in the nutrition side? Do you have a particular focus on that?
Yeah, I take AG1.
AG1.
Yeah,
I'm waiting for them to ring and want to sponsor the program because they sponsor all the good ones, right?
Yeah. The and it's one of those things where I think it makes a difference. I couldn't say like guaranteed it makes a difference, but overall I think it does improve like overall vitality.
Yes.
And try to get in something like 1.6 to 2 grams of protein per kilogram body weight.
Yep.
They're probably the two main things. I've taken creatine on and off at the moment. I'm not taking it partly because it doesn't go well with climbing. It adds body weight.
Yeah.
In climbing, you want to be lean if you can.
Sure.
Because it's kind of power to weight ratio on the
Drink a lot of
wall.
water too, don't you, if you've got creatine going?
Yeah, that's right. And so I'm not taking that at the moment, but we also try and eat organic. And so conscious of herbicides, pesticides, heavy metals. Also any kind of skincare that we do there's this app, Jenny has, I actually don't know what the name of it is, but you can just scan it. We were looking at one yesterday because there's this sunscreen, SPF 50. Scanned it. It was 3 out of 100. Like, okay, we're definitely just not going to get that one.
Wow.
Because our skin is this giant organ which takes in whatever we put on it. And so try to also think about what goes on my skin.
Yeah, I love it. Do you do the sort of cold shock or the heat sauna stressing the body thing?
I have. I've done more cold showers in the past.
Yeah.
But living in Brisbane, the water actually isn't that cold. So
Yeah,
cold
it's
showers,
cheating.
I need to kind of get. I talked about getting an ice bath.
Yeah.
But I think I'd be more tempted by the sauna. And when I travel, I try to stay in
Sounds
places
great.
that have sauna because if you sauna before bed, as long as there's a little bit of a wind down between when you sauna and you go to sleep, it's been shown to massively improve quality of sleep.
Totally.
And so I don't sauna at home, don't have one at the moment, but when I travel, definitely sauna.
Yeah, I love that. That's great. I did a cold shower this morning and being in the Southern Highlands,
Fresh.
it was so cold.
Yeah.
It was crazy cold. So, but I was awake after that and you get that dopamine hit. And I think it's good for releasing visceral fat and a bunch of other good good science around why it's a good idea to shock the body.
Yeah. Do you just go cold and then like just get out?
No, I cheat. So everything I do in this space is okay. I need to actually live with myself. I'm not a zealot, so I'm not going to run a marathon for breakfast or anything.
Yeah, well, I remember Huberman did this episode on like losing body fat.
Yeah.
It's like there's this really amazing way that you can do this with it, which doesn't require any exercise. Went through the protocol. It's like jump into like an ice bath for like 3 minutes, then just get out for about another 3 or so minutes.
Yeah.
Kind of warm up, but you can't get into a hot shower or anything. Then you do this like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
You get out, and then you just have to wait over the next like 4 or 5 hours to warm up. Because the idea is like as your metabolism is like forcing itself to warm up, it's burning more energy. And we used to live in this apartment building, and the pool it just was always in shadow. It was always in shade. So it was actually cold all the time. And even in the middle of the summer, you're like, this is too cold. And I did it. And it was so miserable because you're just cold for like the next 4 hours while your body's warming up. It's like, I just want to get in a hot shower.
No. If you, you don't live long, you just feel like you do.
Yeah, that's right.
So no, I teach us have a normal shower, normal hot shower, but I try and get it really hot towards the end, and then have because body conditions, I get hot, sort of hotter and hotter as I have my shower, and then full on to full cold, and it's high water pressure and it is super cold, and yes, my body is shocked, and I try and stay under there as long as I can, and just kind of get just go from there as an end of a shower. So is it a cheat way? Yes. Can I live with it? Yes, I can. But I just find it's actually good for self-discipline.
Oh yeah.
Forcing yourself to do something you don't want to do first thing of the day.
Yeah.
I think that's arguably good for you.
Yeah. I was more into that when I was single. I did a lot more cold showers back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sleep. Do you have a sleep routine, pre-sleep routine or anything like that?
Yeah. So I try and be low or no screens for a period of time before sleep. We're usually getting in bed at sometimes at 8, and we'll be reading for a while, but like between 8 and 9.
Yeah.
And be trying to be asleep between 8:30 and 9:30.
Okay.
That's
quite early.
pretty early.
I guess you're getting up at 5. So
yeah, we're getting up early.
Yeah.
And that works with our children and things like that as well. But try and have like low screens because that keeps us awake. I use this app called Brick. I don't know if you've heard of this, but it's they give you this little device which I think has like a near field chip in it, and you just can scan it with your phone and you can brick it. So you can like lock any apps that you want. And so I have, when I'm working and actually in a lot of situations, I just have my phone bricked so that I can't access Instagram, but still I want to be able to, every now and then just watch reels or something like that, or, post something. Brick is really helpful because I can lock it and then if I'm not near that device, I can't unbrick it.
Yeah.
And so it makes me more present. It allows me to have more conversation. And I think my phone's bricked now like 90+% of the time.
Right.
So that I can focus. And often before bed, like this is my like absolute switch off mode. I'm like, okay, it's like 8 o'clock. I'm just going to brick it. So now like I can't just be scrolling and mindlessly engaging with the internet. Instead, it's like, well, what apps do I have available? I have like my notes app. I have ChatGPT or Duolingo or like books.
Yeah.
And usually none of those are interesting enough that I just want to scroll for hours.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I like that. I like the 3-2-1 rule. So no food within 3 hours, going to bed, no alcohol within 2 hours. I do like a red wine, I know, and the purists are like, no alcohol.
No alcohol.
I like my life as well.
Yeah.
find some balance in there somewhere. And then no blue light 1 hour. I tend to read Kindle at night.
I prefer physical books.
Okay.
I've gone down the e-reader route before.
Yeah.
And I've come back to physical. And I love the tactile element of it. And something about it just also knocks me out. Like I just go to sleep so easily.
There's something in that physical nature, isn't it? I use the well-known Greek philosopher Tom Clancy. Just kind of rubbish. Just seems to clean the mind out for some reason. I don't know what the dynamic behind that is, but seems to work.
Yeah.
Awesome. Josh, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been great Love what you're doing with Clear AI. Great to have a sense maker in the space because it is so complex. And I just encourage entrepreneurs to reach out and check out Clear AI, connect with you, and get good at what is going to change our world.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for having me.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Great to see you. Thanks for joining us at the Lead Well, Live Well vodcast. Please like, subscribe, and share. If you want to know more about what we're all about, you can find us at leadwelllivewell.com.au.